Biden declares there's going to be a new world order, and guess what? America's gonna be in charge. Yeehaw! Good to see you guys. It's 9:27 on March 22nd. You can't make this stuff up. I'm gonna show a video clip here in just a second, but as you're coming in, please share this. That would be incredible. In this video, we're going to be talking about President Biden's comments today on the New World Order and the changes that have been taking place within our country, how there is a New World Order that's coming, and America's going to lead it. All right, so that's what we're going to be talking about, as well as we're going to do a bit of an update on the van in the Ukraine. We're also going to be doing an update on our trip that is coming up and some really cool opportunities that are unfolding. And so again, if you would share this, that would be incredible. As you're sharing and as you're jumping in, would just encourage you to let me know who you are and where you're watching from. It's good to see my peeps jumping in here. Of course, it's good to see Cheryl, Mike Kabisky. It's good to see Patricia, Timothy jumping on here. Arnold and Amber, good to see you. Please let me know who you are and where you are watching from. That would be awesome. Had a big weekend this last weekend in Spokane, Washington. Had the honor of getting to hang out with Cal Pierce and his wife Michelle, the Keos. That'd be Linda and John and their team. That was my first time being there. Man, it is cool what they are hosting. It was great to connect with that tribe, as well as seeing the connection between Renaissance Coalition, which is an organization that we recently stepped into with the honor of getting to provide leadership for last year. And this is an organization that was incorporated in 1947 by John G. Lake's daughter, Gertrude, and her husband, Wilford Wright, making it the oldest nonprofit in the state of Washington. So this is epic. This is the first nonprofit in the state of Washington, started by John G. Lake's daughter. The organization was originally started in 1908 by John G. Lake in South Africa, and then getting to be at the Spokane Healing Rooms. Again, Cal Pierce's testimony is incredible. Cal Pierce was an elder in Reading, served Bill Johnson's father, and was actually on the board when they voted in Bill Johnson. That's quite a story. He was in real estate, and God spoke to him about Spokane, and eventually spoke to him about John G. Lake and going and reopening a well in Spokane, Washington. So that was just very surreal, getting to be there, getting to meet Cal, to hear their history and where God has taken them, and just getting to be there. Also, just looking at what we've been able to step into with Renaissance Coalition. Now, as I'm going to get into in a little bit here, the team that I'm going with, we are flying into Romania, into Bucharest, catching another plane from Bucharest up to the border, the Romanian-Ukrainian border. And the team that I'm going with, these are all ordained ministers with Renaissance Coalition, and then also getting the opportunity to go with Giles Hooper and his wife Mildred, who are on leadership at Open Door with Troy Brewer. In fact, Giles is one of the main media guys for Troy and the team there. So it's gonna be awesome going there with an amazing videographer, photographer, to capture the stories, the testimonies, to see God move there on the Romanian-Ukrainian border. And so no doubt it's going to be quite an adventure. Looking forward and sharing these testimonies with you guys. So make sure that we're connecting. We can talk about more of that here in a second. But yes, today, this is in the headlines. And again, you can't make this up. Biden declares that there's going to be a new world order. And we'll read a little bit of the article here. While speaking with corporate leaders from some of America's largest companies, President Joe Biden affirmed his faith in the New World Order. We're at an inflection point, he said. I believe in the world economy, and not just the world economy, the world that occurs every 3 or 4 generations, the president said. A general told me that 60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we've established a liberal world order, and it hasn't happened in a long while. And then he continued, and now is a time when things are shifting. Biden continued, there's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. Okay. And we've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it. How bad do things have to be before America hears the term New World Order and thinks, that don't sound like a bad idea, right? Like, how bad do things have to be before people hear the word Antichrist and say, well, does that mean that I could get gas for less than $5 a gallon? Right? What is happening right now is so crazy that as I read the headline yesterday, New York Times did an article on the future of nuclear warfare and how there could actually be nuclear warfare in Europe and the entire earth wouldn't necessarily be destroyed. They've figured out a way, apparently, to be able to drop nukes without destroying the entire world, with these mini nuke type situations. And we hear of wars, we hear of rumors of wars, right? And how bad do things have to get before you see headlines like this and people actually think that's not actually a bad idea? New World Order. Would that mean that this guy wouldn't be doing speech? Would that mean that this guy wouldn't be in charge anymore? Because if so, I could be open. We could have a conversation about that. Man, I'll tell you what. I went back and I listened to this speech because I was thinking, like, all right, so let's hear this in context, because right off the bat, the majority of the liberal press was making fun of conservatives for even bringing this up. They said it's the typical conservative conspiracist theorist are at it again. They took one little piece of President Biden's speech. They're blowing it completely out of proportion. Sure, he said New World Order and that America should be in charge. But come on, guys. Come on, don't get carried away. When he's referring to New World Order, that could mean a lot of things. I'm sure he's not actually referring to a literal uniting of the nations, a world currency. Surely this guy would never intentionally bankrupt our. You see, there's a lot of people that have speculated that Biden wanted to bankrupt our economy on purpose in order to open up opportunities for China. We heard that initially, and then more recently, there's a lot of people talking about, is it possible that there are leaders of countries that would willingly bankrupt their own country? Well, of course not. Why would we bankrupt our own country? Like, why would we do that? For example, like, why would we spend billions of dollars purchasing oil from a country that we're at war with when we have a pipeline where we could be independent, energy independent? We could be energy independent, or we could purchase large quantities of oil from the country that we're at war with, as well as Iran. We already heard a couple weeks ago that Biden was trying to set up a meeting with leaders in Saudi Arabia to figure out how to purchase more oil from Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, we've got a pipeline here that he shut down on his first day in office. And so, no, like, of course, he's not trying to bankrupt his own country, right? Like, all right, so the same guy, okay, that has made unwise choices without any regard for the prosperity of our country, while spending American tax dollars and sending them overseas to Iran and Russia, just so happens to say that there is a new world order and we're going to lead it. And that makes me a conspiracy theorist for even mentioning it. Oh, all right. I'm gonna show you the clip really quick here. This is a stellar speech. Certainly President Biden missed his call. He should have been an actor. When I see speeches like this, I think of Mel Gibson in Braveheart, and just some of the I think of Denzel Washington in some of the speeches that Denzel. I can't recall any movies where Denzel actually makes a speech, but I know there are some Denzel Washington movies where he makes a passionate. When I watch the speech, I think of Oscar winning Morgan Freeman. Like when you see this speech, you are going to be moved by the passion and clarity in this new world. In fact, when I'm going to show this clip right now, and I know the tension's building, and I'm sorry for keeping you waiting, but when I show you the speech, okay, that happened today, where he's talking about the New World Order, and you are going to be on the edge of your seat. You're going to be hanging on to every word, and your life is going to be changed. I'm going to roll the clip here. Here we go.
3 or 4 generations. As one of the top military people said to me in a secure meeting the other day, 60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we established a liberal world order, and that hadn't happened in a long while. A lot of people dying, but nowhere near the chaos. And now is a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. We've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it. So anyway.
Like I said, absolute, just riveting, just raw passion. You can't make this stuff up. A president who makes decisions every single day with no regard for the well-being of our country, and today just so happens to mention that there's a new world order out there, and we're going to be the leaders of it. And I will say that with the current leaders within our country, we are not going to be the leaders of it. Most likely the leaders who are behind the leaders, the ones who are holding the strings that are controlling these guys, are going to lead it. But certainly the real leaders are behind the screen. The real Wizard of Oz is hiding behind the screen. And until then, we'll just have to observe this political puppetry as it continues. Meanwhile, over 4 million Ukrainians have fled for their lives, leaving their homes, all their possessions. We have a family that arrives here in Seattle tomorrow. Their extended family is a part of our church. They're arriving tomorrow with nothing but their clothes. They left all of their possessions and their home in the Ukraine, coming here without a job, without a car, without housing. They arrive tomorrow. They represent over 4 million people that have already, and that number's probably already, that's already an old number that I'm giving, that have left everything to flee for their lives as the country of Ukraine is being invaded. President Zelensky, with his 175,000 active troops, are apparently kicking the Russians' butts. I mean, that's what our media is telling us. We're telling us, man, those Ukrainians, they're giving a butt whipping. They're really keeping the Russians at bay, and we're seeing these maps. And quite frankly, I'm wondering what's going on. Russia has over 900,000 active troops. Okay, Ukraine has 175,000. In fact, I saw one report that Russia actually has 975,000 active troops. And you expect me to believe that the army with 175,000 troops is giving an old butt whipping to the army of 975. So something's going on. Meanwhile, if you look at the invasion map, you'll see that the whole east side part of Ukraine, where the invasion is moving inland quite far, and if you look at the southern part of the country, you see that the invasion's moving in. It looks pretty dense, even moving up towards Moldova, which I've been concerned about Moldova. They've been in the headlines recently, so we need to be praying for Moldova. And then more recently, we've been seeing the random bombings on the west side of Ukraine, which is where we will be at, including bombings of heavily populated urban centers in the west where refugees have fled from the east side of the country into the west, into these refuge cities, and now these cities are also being bombed. And so we're seeing these bombing of public places, anything to do with transit. The train stations are being blown up right now. Airports are being blown up right now. And the report that we received just this last weekend of pastors that are being kidnapped. Two pastors, which are friends of ours. I've got a friend that is right in the center of Ukraine. Sent her off a message. She also knows the two pastors that were kidnapped. But in a message that she sent to me yesterday, she said, no, this is not an isolated incident. That the Russian police are actually breaking into churches throughout the Ukraine and kidnapping ministers. That this is just happening. And it gets worse from that. I'm not going to get into the details on that. And so when I get the countless emails that I've been getting where people want to dive into the conspiracies behind Ukraine and Russia, I disregard a lot of that. And it's not that I don't think it's not true. It's just I don't care. And you say, well, what do you mean you don't care? I care about the 4 million people that are evacuating this country, running for their lives, left everything. From what we're hearing and from the pictures that we're seeing, mostly women and small children, as fathers and husbands remain in the country. People say, well, I don't think we should support anything. I don't think we need to do it. I think, and here's the thing that people don't realize is that if the Ukrainians, if they say we're not going to fight this, okay, well then they just handed their country over to Russia. But if the Russians say we're not going to fight this war, well then everything goes back to normal. So if Russia says we're not going to fight this war, things go back to normal. If Ukrainians say we're not going to fight this war, then they just handed over their country to the bully. Okay? And what makes you think that they're going to stop, that Putin is going to stop at Ukraine? Now, I'm not going to get on here and say that Zelensky is some sort of messiah and he's some sort of squeaky clean guy without any sort of issues, and that there's no conspiracy involving Ukraine. But when I get emails saying that this is actually good and that Putin is actually doing a good thing because of the underground sex trafficking rings that were happening in Ukraine, and actually God's using Putin to bring judgment on Ukraine's underground sex trafficking, well, at that point, I just block you. I just send you because I just think that we can get so wrapped up in narratives and conspiracy theories that we absolutely forget that there are real victims. Yes, there are victims in Russia. Yes, absolutely, they're terrified. Talk about a lack of free speech. Talk about censorship, right? Yes, so there are victims in Russia. Yes, absolutely. And we need to be praying, especially for the church and for the innocent in Russia and those who are being forced into incredibly compromising positions in this time. But we also need to continue to pray and continue to stand with Ukraine. And it's okay to say that you stand with Ukraine. That's okay. And so anyways, we leave next Thursday, okay? And so this time next Thursday, I'll be one night away from leaving with our team. We have a team of 7, and we leave March 31st, and we come back April 6th. It'll take 2 days to get there, and then we'll have about 4 days on the ground where we will be loving and ministering and receiving mostly women and children and families as they come across the border. We'll receive them, we'll love on them, we will pray for them, we'll counsel them, we'll provide them with food, water, with medical supplies. We will also get into the van, which we helped Vital Solutions purchase, which this is super cool, but we raised more than enough funds last Sunday, as well as from many, many, many donors who reached out throughout the United States to sow into the van. And so we will get into the van that we were able to help purchase, head into Ukraine, somewhere between 30 to 50 miles into the country, where we will drop off medical supplies and also pick up families and drive them back across the Romanian border and back to the base. And so, man, this is going to be incredibly epic, getting to be used and available to minister the love of Jesus. From the stories that we're hearing on the front lines now, we're hearing I know of one team saw over 1,000 decisions for Christ in 1 week, seeing miracles, seeing Jesus show up in such a dark place, in such a dark time. We are seeing a hot war in Europe, and we're seeing it in our generation and in our lifetime. So please be praying for us, the team. We have Charlie Shamp and Bernice Scheidler, Aaron Packard. We have Christine Morgan. We have Giles and Mildred Hooper, and it's gonna be an incredible time. So if you guys would be praying, I know we've got 24/7 prayer from Destiny Encounters. I know we've got Ignite Faith praying. I know we've got our intercessory teams at Sierra Bible Center praying. Certainly covet your prayers as well. You can go on my Instagram, check out the team, follow the team on Instagram, be praying for them. You can sow into their ministries. You'll see the names of their ministries. You can check out their websites and just pray and see who you want to give into and connect with them and follow them on Instagram, as the whole team will be posting updates. And I imagine we're all going to have countless stories to tell of what we're experiencing there on the front lines. And then also you can follow me at my website. It's darrenstott.com, and you'll see the tab there, donate, if you wish to give into my trip. We've got a big meeting tomorrow morning with our host, where we're going to be getting a whole bunch of details. And once we have that meeting, then I will let you know as far as additional items and things that I'm hoping to perhaps bring with me into the country, because I think, but I don't want to get into that too much now. We're going to have our planning meeting first tomorrow morning, and after we have that meeting, then I'll be able to fill you in with more details. But it's going to be good. It's going to be good to include you, and to include you all. The response has been absolutely overwhelming, and I want to thank the so many of you that have reached out on direct message. You have DM'd me on Instagram. You've called me. You've hit me up at church. I was at the gym the other day, and a guy came up to me at the gym and just said, "Pastor Darren, I'm praying for your trip. How's it going? What are you going to be doing?" And so that's pretty awesome. I'm feeling the love. We're feeling the support. I think many of you have sown into me, have sown into our team. Thank you. I even had a guy reach out, a friend, and invest a significant amount of air miles to help out with tickets, which was absolutely incredible. So the generosity has been huge. I know the prayer is huge. We have an incredible comprehensive prayer strategy. I'll be filling in Seattle Revival Center with more details on what that looks like, because we've got some cool prayer initiatives coming up to help cover this team as we're going. And so, it's a big deal. A lot is taking place. It's so cool to be a part of it. It's so cool to be in it with you. And we'll continue to rally together, Remember, in times like these, of course, this is I'll put on my pastor hat now. It's so important that we are not neglecting the gathering of the assembly. In times like these, we need to be gathering together with brothers and sisters in Christ with regularity. Okay, we need to be gathering. We need to be worshiping. We need to be praying, and we need to kind of not get too political, because I do not think that there's a political solution for what we're looking at. I really believe we need divine intervention. Case in point. This is where things are going politically. The thought that maybe our hope could be in a bunch of nations coming together, pooling our resources. If our nations can't afford oil, if they can't afford corn, if they can't afford wheat, if it's going to cost $50 for a box of Honey Nut Cheerios, how long can we do that as a country before we actually have to rally together, not just as the United States, but until we have to rally together with other nations? How long does the dollar deflate? How long do we face unprecedented inflation? We haven't seen anything hit our country like this since 1982, as far as the increase in inflation. So how much longer do we see these things happen before leaders start saying, let's pool together our nations, let's pool together our resources, let's pool together our economy? And then all of a sudden we start to see patterns that were rolled out in Revelation begin to be manifested in our generation. Yep. Time to pray, time to worship, time to gather, time to dive into the fabric of what's happening within our country and within the nations. With prayer, we can make a huge difference. And as I want to wrap up with this. Actually, I want to tell two quick stories, because there really is a grace right now to be salt and light. So the first story I'll tell is just from our trip in Spokane. I met Pastor Toby and Patty for lunch at a restaurant in Spokane, and our waitress came up to us, and she had one of these full sleeve tattoo things going on, and there was water, all this water, and there was this guy that looked like God, and then there was like Medusa with all these snakes coming out of her head. And I thought, man, what is happening on that arm? So we're eating lunch, and I'm kind of praying into this, and I got my friend Jason Stahl with me, and there's just all this great conversation, all this dialogue, but I'm having difficulty paying attention to the conversation, because the whole time I'm kind of diving into this conversation with the Lord regarding this tattoo, and it's just like, whoa, and I felt bad because I felt somewhat absent from the conversation because of this. I was just praying, God, what's, and finally we get to the end of our lunch. And I said, hey, excuse me, real quick. And I end up interpreting her tattoo. And there was just such a grace on it. And she what it was is all this Greek mythology. But as we've been studying at Seattle Revival Center, all these crazy parallels between Greek mythology and Moses' account of the Genesis, the origin of all things. So I'm interpreting the waters. I'm interpreting how the Greek gods would feel at home amongst watery environments, and then I take her into Eden and how Eden was a watery environment, and there's springs coming up from the ground, and there's 4 rivers. There's 2 terrestrial and 2 celestial, and I'm taking her into Eden, and then I said also in the garden there was a serpent, and the serpent becomes symbolic of a curse, and we see the serpent raised on a stick with Moses, and then we see Jesus raised on a cross, who becomes the curse. And I'm just going into this whole thing, and she's into it. She's like, I feel like I know this stuff, right? And then just let her know, hey, Jesus became a curse. I said all your curses could be broken. You are not cursed. With the account of Medusa, you have a story of a gal who had a vow of chastity, who broke that vow and then therefore becomes cursed. And she has all these snakes coming out of her head. And if you looked at her, then you would also be cursed. And so here she's got this actually on her body. And I just let her know, listen, you are not cursed. And there is no you might feel resonance with this, with Medusa, with this girl that was cursed, but he became a curse, anyways. And then she let us bless her, and we just began to pray for her, and she felt the presence of the Lord come on her. It was amazing. Just this morning, we had a party to celebrate the wins from our 8-day conference that we had just recently at Sarah Vowel Center. We did a Sunday to a Sunday, all these sessions, and we celebrated it today. And again, we had this waitress. It was an older gal, and at the very end, everybody was leaving, and just went walking up to her and said, "Hey, can I pray with you really quick?" And she's like, "Well, you can, but I'm not going to stop moving. I got to work." And I said, "Okay, that's fine." And then the Lord spoke to me and told me about the Lord told me that I was to rebuke the devourer in her life, and that if she would let me rebuke the devourer, that the Lord would rebuke the devourer, and she would be able to begin accumulating wealth and health and be able to make some advances. And so she said that would be okay. And so I rebuked the devourer in the name of Jesus. And then immediately I saw reconciliation come within relationships within her family. And she goes, "That's weird." She goes, "That is eerily accurate." And the Lord just kind of opened up. That situation and that scene. And the reason why I bring this up is that there, in light of all of the global darkness that we are facing right now, this isn't just something that we're facing as a country. This is a global darkness right now. And in light of this global darkness, there is a grace that abounds. And if you will take risk, you will find that Jesus is going to show up in a very peculiar and wonderful and in a very fresh way. And the resistance will be hard to get you to not do it. But I'm feeling God's heart right now. Really, just there's something really big in his heart that he's trying to. I even in my preaching at Sarah Vowel Center last Sunday morning, where we dove into God's heart for one flesh and marriage and to redeem sexuality, I preached with what I would think was an unprecedented passion that I feel like was from the heart of God in order to seek and save marriages and relationships. I said unprecedented passion because it felt like I was warring to awaken our congregation, that together as a family we would fight for marriages and we would fight for truth when it comes to gender confusion and bringing gender clarity. And yep, there is a global darkness, and yet there is a grace for awakening, to awaken hearts to their identity and their destiny. And I'm telling you, if you will take big risk in this season, you will see big rewards. And we're already seeing it. And there's some stuff that I've shared with our congregation. I'm not going to share here because of a big meeting that we have tomorrow, and then a big meeting that we have on Friday morning. And but God is doing some really cool stuff that is just completely sovereign. Is really just His providence at work. And then as we get these things confirmed, we'll share more publicly on Facebook. But I'm really excited. There's some concern. This last weekend, I was being contacted by people that had some real concern about me going or about our team going, just because of some of the events taking place in Ukraine just over the weekend. And my response was, listen, no, we're past the point of praying whether or not we should go or not, because here's the problem. When we hear of stuff that is happening over there, when we hear that there's sin, sickness, and darkness that is breaking out over there, that doesn't discourage my team. I said, we've got the weirdest team doing this trip. And the reason why I think that we've got the weirdest team is that these things, they excite us. Like when we hear these things that are tragic, we don't celebrate tragic things, but it builds a confidence in us. and just chatting with some of the team members over the weekend, I can honestly tell you I have not heard even a shred of an ounce of fear in our team. There is nothing but pure joy, just raw faith and pure joy and such expectancy. And so, man, I'm counting you guys in. Y'all are family, and so appreciate you, so grateful for you, and I cannot wait to celebrate the wins with you. I might not get to eat breakfast with you like I got to do with my team this morning. Maybe we could do a virtual breakfast when I come back. Maybe I can eat some eggs and bacon and chewing y'all's ears, and you could eat some eggs and bacon, and we could tell stories. Maybe we could celebrate like that. But I do know that regardless, we are going to celebrate together. We're going to celebrate the victories of Christ Jesus and how they were made manifest in a place where the eyes of the nations are currently watching and looking. And this is what I know: Jesus is King. In fact, if everybody, why don't we end with that? If you're watching, put in the comments, Jesus is King. That'll be our profession right now. That'll be our declaration. That how do we respond to these evil kings in these nations that have no regard for innocent life, that have no regard for women and children? What is our response to these kings? Our response is that we have a king that reigns above all kings and a Lord that reigns above all lords. That our Jesus is King, that he is in control. And with his glorious bride, he is going to redeem and restore everything. Jesus is King. That's our declaration tonight. We're in agreement. Jesus is King. Awesome. I see it all going up in the comments. I see those comments. And love you guys. Can't wait to get on here real soon and give you another update as soon as we get more details on our trip. It's so amazing to see some of our team members in here. As you see them, follow them, send them love. I saw Christine Morgan on here. There might be other team members. Keep an eye out for Bernice Scheidler, Christine Morgan, of course, Charlie Champ. I'm missing others. It's 10:04 now. It's my bedtime, but we will stay in touch. All right. Love you guys. Good night.